What's good? You are watching Daniel and Gian review Baahubali 2 The Conclusion. The first thing that stands out to me was a lot like Gangs of Wasseypur. This felt like it could have been one super long movie.
I mean, technically it was.
It was
supposed to be,
but I don't think they filmed it together.
I don't buy that though, honestly, because they started writing it after, unlike Gangs of Wasseypur, it was written from the beginning. And I kind of see that it should be two films, not one story. I mean, it is one story, but we'll get on that a little bit later. What were your overall impressions, though?
I liked it. I had a good time.
Better than the first one?
I had a good time. I liked it better than the first one. I honestly did. I watched it with my dad, and
what did he think?
He loved it. He had a good time watching it.
So it didn't matter he didn't see the first one?
Nope. No, I don't think you needed to watch the first one to see the second one. I mean, you do a little bit, but not that much.
That's actually my biggest problem with this one. Is I feel like well,
the structuring of both movies is a little, I don't want to say weird, but it's different than what I'm used to.
Right.
So you can make the argument that some of it was unnecessary, but overall I liked it. I had fun watching the action sequences. I didn't ever really get bored watching it, which is always important for me. You know, and just seeing my dad get a kick out of it. My aunt came in and watched it, and they were both really impressed with just the set designs, the costumes, you know.
Which says a lot because, you know, they're 100% third parties here.
Yeah. They're
watching something they probably wouldn't normally watch at all. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming. Would they watch Baahubali?
No. No, my dad definitely wouldn't. He wouldn't have thought twice about watching. I think, you know, he has actually seen a couple in the theater in Fremont. I don't know.
Yeah, because you were telling me that because of the high population of Indians.
Yeah, and he's just been bored, and he already watched every other movie. So he's like, I'll pop in, and he's watched them. Like some of the action. I'm sure he knows Salman Khan movies better than I do. He seems
we need him on the cast.
Yeah. But no, I had a good time watching it. That's, you know, I thought production wise it was a little better than the first one.
Oh, definitely. I think it was leaps better than the first one.
You could definitely see an improvement there.
Just in terms of the CGI.
Yeah, the CGI was definitely better. Although some of the animals did not look real, but that's just nitpicking. But
right.
No, it looked like it looked like they reshot the first movie and just made like a more
with more money.
Yeah, with more money. A more high production value version of the first one.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Let's see. In terms of story, was it better than the first one for you? Because I know you like the movie.
I think the story was more engaging than the first one. The first one was just kind of like him figuring out who he was.
Him being the son?
Mahendra. The first guy's name is Amendra, I believe. Amendra Baahubali. So Mahendra Baahubali.
Mahendra, yeah.
And just connecting. Although the one thing that for a second there I got confused and didn't know who I was
story
watching.
We were following.
You know, just because it's him. He's the same actor,
him,
and they didn't really do anything to like change the way he looked.
They kind of have the same hairstyle and everything.
To the T. Which I mean, it makes sense. Like at the end of the first one, you know, Katapa sees him and he like bows because he's like, "This is Baahubali." He sees his face and
the marking on their head, was it different? I didn't notice.
I think the marking on the head was different too.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to that, to be honest.
But this was really minor,
right,
for us, anyways. So like it took me like I think maybe an hour into the movie, I was like, "Wait a second,
this is the dad."
Oh, this happened before what I watched in the first movie.
Right. I started questioning because like the scene with the elephant, I was like, "Wait, this feels like it's happening now, but based on the context of the story, there's no way that this is really happening now unless we flash forward a bunch." And then like the mom's alive. I'm like, "Oh no, this is." I had a problem with that scene though.
All right.
With the elephant, like just. My biggest gripes for the whole movie are just like those Deus Ex Machina moments where just happenstance because like Baahubali, father or son, are just that great. The elephant goes mad in the beginning, and then they have that statue that comes out. You know, I'm just gonna happen to bring it out as she's walking across as the elephant happens. I mean,
that's kind of established though. That was in the first movie too. It's set in the second movie. Just
right. So to me, it's a continued problem.
He's pretty much a
Superman.
He's a god. You know, nothing can hurt him except a sword in the back.
Well, I feel like it was a little bit of the writers. How can we make this? What bothered me about it is her walking, like without ever stopping and all this stuff, carrying everything. That's impressive enough.
Yeah.
I don't need extra like an elephant, you know, increasing the stakes. It's already enough. I mean, they could have shot it where she's like actually hurting or something like that. Like just the act of her walking this distance to me was tremendous.
But I think they just wanted to just reiterate how special Baahubali was or is.
I think you can go too far though.
Yeah.
I mean, and then at the end,
I think this kind of movie, it's okay because it's just so out there.
I don't know
That it's all right. Like I'm not.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me to like
the
not
first
roll
movie,
my eyes.
The
That's
first
my
movie
thing.
already had a lot of like pushing the boundaries of reality. So
I accept that 100%.
So why would you? I feel like your expectations change for the
Well,
second
no,
one.
I
Like
don't-
there's no reality in this at all. You can't ground yourself. The things
'cause
that
to
he
me-
did, he's running through a shower of arrows.
But see, I believe that.
Not getting hit.
I believe that. I believe that 100%. I believe that. That to me is in the world. But for him to like be in this box just waiting for his mother to like cross over because because he somehow knew there was an elephant getting mad, like the circumstance was
these
too
are things that
unbelievable.
happen in every movie. Like a lot of
I
action
understand
movies
that,
left and right.
and I'll still complain about all of those. Like the end of the movie with the golden statue, and they just happen to knock the statue over, and the head happens to roll just as his mother is walking across doing the same trials where she has to walk. I forget what it's called. I should know, but you know what I'm talking. The head just happens to land in the water, and because the bridge was on fire. Like to me, that's too far. Because that's not just, that was happenstance. That's the writers like, oh, how can we be clever? What really bothered me about that scene is when the head falls down and then like shoots across the, like there's space they're in, and then it lands in the water. There's a part where the uncle, the one with the small hand, don't know how to pronounce the name, sorry. The head crashes through like the building, and he like sees it and he watches it go by him. That would have been a moment where I feel like he should have died. He should have got killed by that statue, and then it should have landed or whatever. Because to me, it's a thematic ending to his like lust and greed for the throne. He gets killed by an idol, essentially, which is what he wanted this whole time, and he dies there. But instead, he doesn't die, and then he seems to be, I don't know about forgiven, but he seems to still be within the circle, the family circle. I don't really understand, like, that's why I didn't like the ending. It just seems there's so many loose ends that no one seems to talk about the fact that the son's lover in the first one pretty much is dismissed in this one entirely. I mean, there's never a scene with them at all, but yet they still end up.
Well, because
it's
because this movie wasn't about the son; it was about the dad. The majority of the movie was about his father.
But the first one was.
And then they had a moment in the first one, but it didn't develop into a full scale romance. They didn't get married, nothing like that.
I understand that.
I mean, she was the reason.
But she was still there at the end of this movie.
But she's also the reason why he got introduced to the rebel faction in the first place. That was her job. That was her role. Her role in the film was to get him introduced to the rebel faction who was fighting his uncle. Not his great uncle, but his uncle.
But they had a build up. They had multiple scenes in the first one to build something up. Yes, there was an introduction, but there was something brewing there.
Yeah, they had a scene there, but that scene, I mean, I'm just saying, you can make the argument that the scene was there so that he would get introduced to the rebel faction, which ends up fighting.
I mean, that's what it is now.
Yeah, well, that's what it was in that movie too. Because she leaves, because she realizes that she's not about that life. She can't, even though she wants to have that life like that, she can't.
I understand that. But I'm just saying.
So we don't need that. The next movie starts and it has the new romance. Bahubali's mom gets romance.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
It's a similar romance.
The
She's
movie
also
picks
like a
and
warrior
chooses.
princess.
The movie picks and chooses what it wants to push forward. And maybe it's my attachment to the characters in the first one. Because I like the first one better. I for all the flaws that the first one had, for me it just worked as a film better. I didn't necessarily need to know why. Katapa, that's how you say his name, right? The one with the why he betrayed his father. I got it. It was enough information for me to see him stab him in the back. I didn't need 2 hours to know that. Now, with that in mind, that first 45 minutes of it is really slow. Like it really was bothering, and it ended up tying up nicely. Where it was like, okay, I'm glad I know about it, but I didn't need it. The movie was 2.5 hours plus. It could have easily been a 2-hour film. Easily. I mean, the moments, because like to me, I understand the argument of like we're in a fantasy. This is an epic. We're gonna push the limits a little bit. We're beyond the realm of reality. I got that from the first one. Okay, I was really excited to see this movie, But then to see the whole flashback of him having to go to this other province and play dumb, and it was like really overtly dumb.
Yeah, I didn't understand that why he needed to play dumb.
I didn't know why
the purpose of that was. And
why do you need a super pretty?
Games.
Why do you need a super pretty princess? Like, is that really all that matters?
Well, it wasn't him looking for a super.
I know it was his mom.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying though, like, is that all that matters in the realm right now? Where that's what you need to do. You got to get married. I mean, maybe that's what it is. But for me personally, could they have done it in a better way? That's my thing.
See, I think we're venturing into the realm of cultural differences here and what the audiences expect there versus what they expect here.
I'll accept that.
And I think that's like what you're failing to grasp here. And you're like you're not bending the way you think movies should be. The movie's a 3-hour epic because I feel like I might be wrong. And people are going to comment and let me know if I'm wrong. But when they go and see an epic, they expect it to be that long. They expect certain elements in the movie. You know. So
you're saying that there's stuff added just to hit that marker. I'm not saying that it needs, like, I know you're saying an epic needs to be 2 hours and 40 minutes, so that's why it's 2 hours. I know you're not saying that, but do you think that I think there's
a certain formula that the audience goers require that we don't necessarily require here, that we might lambast.
See, but it wasn't the length though.
I'm not talking the length, but just adding these little extra elements in, like the whole playful, like, romance. Was the romance really necessary in this? No.
I mean,
was a romance necessary in the first one? Because we did not touch that same romance again in the second movie. You're right. So was it necessary for us? No, because it didn't advance the story at all, other than that one little detail that I referenced already. But maybe this is something that people expect.
Well, I think
people expect the song. People expect the music video portion.
Right.
That we don't expect here.
Right.
You know, so that might be another element in the movie. You know,
I agree with that. I'm not.
I mean, if you're,
I think that's one of the reasons why we do these reviews too, is because we can only come at it with what we know.
Right.
And as we continue to do these, we're going to learn more and more. I mean, thanks to you guys, we actually, you know, you're going to call us on it and tell us we're wrong or right or whatever. But what bothered me, it wasn't the length, it wasn't the music videos, it was just simply the fact that the way these characters are being portrayed in those moments early on in the movie, I just can't see them being that ridiculous, that much of a buffoon, to play it up that much. And then for what? What was the ultimate goal of playing that dumb?
Well, and I'm with you. That section of him, like, going to that kingdom and then just doing whatever him and Katapa both, like, I don't understand what the point of that was. And I'm sure it was referenced in the movie why they went out in the first place. It wasn't for him to go and find a bride.
No, it was him to go around to the people.
Right.
To him be normal, to, like, see the kingdom, and that's what his mom suggested.
But at the same time, that was an element in the story. Him going out and doing that, and then
he could have done that,
and his brother or his brother/cousin knowing that this was going to start some stuff and using that to his advantage. I mean, it was part of the manipulation to take over the throne.
Absolutely. Sure. And I think my problem is, like I said, it eventually resolved fine. Like, him playing dumb actually ended up working out interesting, because then you have the twist with the mother. Like, you know, the brother finds out that his brother wants to marry her.
Yeah.
So he tells his mom, "Hey, I want this girl. She's beautiful." So then the mom, you know, all of the backstabbing and the back channeling worked.
Right.
So it's this weird thing. That's why I was saying let's not start off with this, because on one hand, it really, really, really did bother me 100%. Like, every time they were being dumb, I was just like rolling my eyes. But then you have moments with the prince where, you know, he was being all pretending to be macho, but we all know he wasn't. Right. And it was comical, and it did make me roll my eyes. But because of that scene,
he validated himself later on.
Later on, you earned it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few moments in this movie where a character actually was set up and then it earned a payoff. That's my biggest problem with Baahubali as a father and a son, like as the character, because there's no setup for everything. We mentioned that in the first review.
Yeah, he's Superman. He's got no,
all of a sudden,
he's no imperfections, and he just learns everything. He's just
exactly.
He's a god,
and that's a problem for me, because they could have easily set things up to where we show him train. We show this. That's why when you said that your dad watched this movie, he hasn't seen the first one, obviously, and you feel like this second one can stand on its own, because I kind of feel that way. I mean, they could have added a little bit more about the son to make this movie a little bit longer, but You know, I just feel like two hours of backstory, 2 hours of, it's basically a prequel, right?
Right.
There's you can't argue that this movie's not a prequel.
Well, and that's where, like I said, I mentioned that the structuring was a bit odd because the first movie ends going back into the past.
Right.
And the second movie begins in the past.
And from that's why I said earlier when Katapa stabs Baahubali Senior, right?
Yeah.
I was okay with leaving it at that. I was okay with thinking about why he did that. And maybe they explain it a little bit, but I mean, do they need 2 hours to explain that moment, that betrayal? That's my thing. It could have been done in 30 minutes, but it was 2 hours because I cared about the son. I cared about what he was gonna do, and that. So like maybe I'm just wrong because in my mind I was like, okay, when are we gonna cut to the son? Okay, when are we gonna cut to the son? And 2 hours go by, and finally we get to the story of the son, right? And all his whole objective is now, okay, we're just gonna go kill my uncle.
Take back the throne.
That's it. There was no other like story. There was no other like plot weaving in between that. It was just, okay, we have all this backstory, and now we're gonna go kill him. And to me, I felt a little disappointed because in the first one, that's why I like the first one. In the first one, you really get to know the son and the dad, but it was for me more of a story about the son in the first one.
And speaking of Superman, I think right about now is the time to take a little cutaway.
Hey guys, and welcome to the part of the review where I delve deeper into film and film history. And today I'm going to be discussing Amarendra and Mahendra's complete lack of character flaws and why I personally feel it weakens both of these characters. But I just want to start by saying my opinion is completely subjective, and I know there's going to be a lot of people out there who don't necessarily agree with me, and that's okay. I just ask one thing. If you don't agree with me, or even if you do agree with me, let me know in the comments why. Let's have a discussion. With that in mind, let's get right into it. Baahubali, both Amarendra and Mahendra, are one and the same. Not only are they father and son, but they both embody identical characteristics. As a matter of fact, if you put them side by side, you might not know who is who. There is another famous hero that's very similar to both of these characters. You may have heard of him, Superman. When the story requires Amarendra to be an expert bowman, he becomes one. When he needs to be an expert tactician, he miraculously comes up with the idea to turn trees into catapults. Even in the midst of an avalanche, Mahendra's quick mind and immense strength allows him to break down a tree and use it to slide to safety. At no point, even in the most insurmountable odds, are either Amarendra and Mahendra ever in real danger. They are essentially gods amongst men. Similarly, Superman's ability also serves his own story whenever necessary. If the bad guys have guns, Superman is actually invulnerable to gunfire. If an airplane falls from the sky, Superman's superhuman strength and ability to fly at supersonic speeds allows him to save the day. He is even powerful enough to spin the world backwards in order to turn back time to save Lois Lane's life. There is one problem to all of these characteristics, though. It makes these characters truly unrelatable to everyday people. In my honest opinion, the greatest thing about being human is the fact that we do have flaws. The fact that there is not a single person on earth who can do everything to perfection allows for us as humans to come together and work our problems out as a whole. But maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe I should look at these characters not as human beings, but as symbols. In Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, it couldn't be any more evident as it is explicitly stated that Superman's symbol isn't a letter, but a symbol of hope.
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
Maybe like Superman, both Amarendra and Mahendra only exist so that we should look up and to aspire to be like them. Regardless if we ever turn out to be like them, maybe it's the idea of striving towards that ultimate form of perfection. However, the unfortunate side effect of all of this is when these characters are on screen in stories, it doesn't necessarily allow for the story to reach its ultimate peak of dramatic tension. Superman has kryptonite to weaken him, to allow for this dramatic tension to happen from time to time, but Baahubali doesn't have kryptonite. He's truly invulnerable to everything, with the exception of his backstabbing family. As I've mentioned before, the biggest problem in all of this is it does not allow for us to see ourselves within them. It's very hard to relate to them. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were infamous for introducing character flaws into each one of their characters in the Marvel lineup. The Hulk is a genius, but has an anger problem. As much of a leader as Captain America is, he still only fights for what he feels is right. Sometimes he doesn't take into consideration that truth and justice might not be the only way to approach life. Iron Man's a billionaire, but yet he never seems to be satisfied with anything he does. These small flaws create characters that we as human beings can relate to. Everyone can relate to the Hulk's anger problem. We all have a temper from time to time, and sometimes it's just uncontrollable. But I can guarantee you that no one out there is as perfect as Baahubali or Superman. But at the end of the day, whether your character is a god amongst men like Baahubali or a flawed human being like Steve Rogers, it all comes down to storytelling. And storytelling is the most human thing that we can do and continue to do and have done so since the beginning of our existence. As long as we keep telling stories, we can continue to grow and become better individuals. So thanks for listening, guys, and let's get back to the rest of this review.
So, I mean, I think we've exhausted the storyline itself, but what did you think about the action sequences?
They were loads better than the first one, leaps and bounds better than the first one. There was a certain amount of absurdity, I felt like, especially with the bow and arrow this time. It actually reminded me of Wonder Woman that came out this year, with a lot of use of slow motion, a lot of use of the Zack Snyder speed ramping, you know, where they're running and then all of a sudden they do something cool in slow motion and they start running again, you know.
The one thing that stood out to me more than anything was the final battle where they're
Angry Birds,
where they're catapulting people in over the castle wall, and I thought it was ridiculous until I saw them kind of come together in the air into a shield phalanx and then hit the ground and like explode. Like it was ridiculous, and I laughed, but it was super creative and super fun. Like I thought that was pretty cool that they did that.
Do you think it was serious though? Like when the writers were writing it, do you think they were like, no one's gonna laugh at this?
I mean, maybe it could be. I sure hope.
I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
For those of you out there who watch this, how many of you guys laughed at this moment? Maybe you guys loved it. I'm not saying you didn't hate the movie, but like when you saw this scene, did you roll your eyes? Because I did. Because it broke the amount of seriousness that was leading up to that moment. Yeah. And then, but like you said, you kind of just go with it. You roll with the punches and you're going to laugh, just like the avalanche scene in the first one. But then the one thing I will say about this movie, as much as I've complained so far about, you know, the characterization and things like that, the film always seems to right itself. It seems to put itself on the right path again. Mm-hmm. It falls off the rails, but it goes right back on the track not too long after, which is pretty important because if it continued to fall off the rails and fall deeper and deeper, I probably wouldn't have finished the movie.
Right.
But other than that, I enjoyed a lot of the other creative elements of the like when Baahubali Senior dies, that whole scene with the barbarians that over the fire in the background, and how he put all their bodies on the tree and lift. Like I thought that was all cool. Yeah. I actually really liked that stuff. The stuff with the oxen, those bulls or whatever they were with the horns on fire, I didn't understand that, but I'd never seen it before. It didn't really make sense because when you think about it, like these bulls are on fire, so it like stops them from...
And that adds to the Superman God complex because he shot one flaming arrow in the air and then like 10 minutes later they're all on fire. Like,
but I mean the soldiers on the other side, all they had to do was wait for them to like ride by. It's not like
that they kind of did.
That's exactly what happened. I know, that's what I'm saying. It's not really the best tactical,
but it gave the other
a little bit of time. Yeah, it's some fear factor. I understand. I like that. I'm saying I like that stuff.
And here's the one thing: when one of our reactions, we asked if this movie was suitable for kids. Like, do they let kids watch it?
This movie was violent.
It was violent, but at the same time, I feel like the violence was almost cartoon violence.
There were some moments where it wasn't, though.
And yeah, obviously,
with the decapitations.
The decapitation.
Was your movie censored when the guy who took over the commander in chief from Baahubali cut his fingers off?
No.
So on Netflix,
I watched it on Netflix.
So what version did you see? Okay, so I watched the Tamil version.
So this time I watched the Hindi version because that was the first one that popped up, and I was at my parents' house, so I didn't want to like
find it.
So I just did the Hindi version.
So in that version on Netflix, it's literally like blurs out his hands.
No, this one,
which I felt to be really weird.
It's a little odd. That's an odd censor.
They don't censor the guy's head getting cut off, but his fingers getting cut off.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I watched the Tamil version because I started with the Hindi version. I don't even remember what version I watched.
And I could
the first
tell, like,
one
right
on.
off the bat, the voices were different.
That's why I changed it.
The dubs were a little off, too.
That's exactly why I changed it, because I noticed the background people weren't laughing because they didn't spend the time to, like, add the background.
Right.
The characters laughing. So, yeah, that's how I set it on the Tamil version. I did really like how the movie ended, though. And I know I said I didn't like it, but I mean the actual last moments of the movie with the head rolling down the river. Because if that statue were actually made out of gold, it would have sank right to the bottom, and there's no current that would have pushed it down the...
Maybe it was a gold-plated statue. You ever thought of that?
No.
It had foam inside.
It was a foam. It was fake.
It's like those,
it was a styrofoam.
like those fake columns they have here in California. They look like, and then if you crack them, they're just foam.
Or that's... I didn't think about that. I mean, maybe. Let us know in the comments if it was foam. But for reals, though, for me, I didn't let that like bog down the scene because the symbolism behind it was great. For the movie that was 2 hours and 40 minutes times 2, because you have basically it's a 6-hour movie, right? By the end of the movie, it did the rare thing of starting where it began. I mean, the whole head was able to basically take you down the river and down the journey that both Bahubalis undertook throughout the whole film.
Right.
And it ended at the bottom of the waterfall where it all began, and we finally the last shot of the whole series is that memorial shrine or whatever it was.
Right.
I forget. I know you guys are going to correct me. That Bahubali placed there, right? And that's where the whole movie ends. And so to me, it was just, I don't know, it was the perfect symbolic ending for the movie.
Yeah.
I just didn't care for like the characters' endings, but like in terms of the story,
Right.
the symbolism behind it, I thought it was great. Because then you also think like, if that head is made of pure gold, and all those people down there who are living down there, that's a lot of money now for them.
Yeah, although I don't know if they necessarily use currency down there.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm just saying.
And they melt it and turn it into
The
something
point
else.
the point is Bahubali's still giving back.
Right.
Even inadvertently, like him breaking a statue head off, and and Earth taking it down. It's just an interesting thing.
For me, I just got caught up in the moment of the movie, and I had a good time watching it. And I think that was the key. Like because the first one was ridiculous enough where I wasn't expecting the second one to get super serious, super grounded, or at all. There was all kinds of stuff I questioned. Like, I mean, just a story, which was a good element, I think, of the mother, loving her adopted son more than her biological son. And
that's a good message.
And why?
Right, exactly.
And I think because I think on the inside she knew that her biological son was screwed up.
Right.
And not to mention, I mean,
well, and the father too. He was, because she saw the father in the son, and then the adopted one didn't have any of that negative influence.
Right, exactly. Like there was just some shadiness about him, and she knew it, and that's why she named Bahubali the king at first, then took it back, then gave it to his child once she found out that the son and the father were up to no good, making stuff up.
I just wish,
But if it wasn't for her hubris, for the whole marriage thing, none of this would have happened.
Right, exactly. Which is why it makes you wonder, like, how important was it? If they would have just waited or whatever. But I think you're right.
Well, she sacrificed herself though. She ended up
paying the ultimate price.
Yeah.
Her life.
And she righted her wrong.
100%. And because of that, the son was able to come back.
The story, I mean, this is not a Christian movie, but on a Christian level, there's a lot of similarities to biblical stories in this movie.
Absolutely.
That's what reminded me more than anything. It for me, this was like a movie you would see about King David or something that people would remake.
And I would probably have watched it in like Catholic school or something, because it has a positive message. I'm not denying that at all. I think that's a very, because it's a positive message about how you should approach people and interact with people, but there's also a strong message for women. There's a lot of strong female characters.
Yes.
Obviously, you have the Queen Mother, but also Bahubali Senior's wife, or ends up being his wife. She was also a no-nonsense person. You can't tell her what to do. Even the Queen Mother couldn't tell her what.
Right.
Those are one of my favorite moments of the whole series, are those dialogue scenes between them, because she didn't back down at all.
Yeah.
At all. Even to the point where she's pregnant and she's like, "I want you to take the throne back. Like that's what I want your gift to be," which is pretty crazy for her to say. I just, at the end of the day, I kind of wish this was one movie. where it came out like Gangs of Wasseypur. And maybe they tightened it a little bit, you know, it didn't have to be so long. But I think, and I'm going to propose this, or not propose this, but I'm going to ask this question to you guys, because we didn't have a 2-year waiting period between the movies. Right? So I was
going to mention that too.
Like, we had a month. Like, yeah. How impressed were you? How disappointed were you? Did you forget about the first one? Because that's the thing. The first one was fairly fresh for us because we watched it about a month apart. So, like, maybe that's why I'm being so hard on it, because I had high expectations because it was so fresh.
And you didn't have that time to, like,
forget about things.
Take a breath. And this wasn't part of this. Could have been a refresher for people who hadn't seen the movie since it first came out. So I recognize that as well, because there's that time gap that we didn't have.
So that's my question to you guys. Like, were you disappointed? I'm gonna assume you liked it based on the amount of recommendations we got, but I don't know. Did you, when you watched the second one, did you watch the first one the night before or something like that? You know, because just as a refresher, did you just go in raw? Because I always talk about James Bond, Quantum of Solace. No one likes that movie, but I love it. But only when you watch it right after Casino Royale, because they connect.
And you're also that guy that likes to be different. So
I guess. What would you rate it, though, to wrap this up? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being greatest, 1 being the worst.
I give it a 7. It was a solid 7. It was good.
The first one was what? I don't remember what we rated.
The first one, I don't remember either. I think it was around. I mean, I feel like they're similar in ratings.
I give the first one a 7.5, and then this one's like right next to it, a 7.
I think it was fun. I think it was uplifting. There had every little element, and cliche or not, because there was a lot of cliche, but it was fine. It was a fun movie. This is a movie that you go to the theater with your family to go watch.
Absolutely.
This is a Christmas movie. You know,
it's a good time. It's supposed to be a good time.
Here in the United States, Christmas Day, a lot of families, you know, will open presents in the morning, and then we'll all go together to go watch a movie, and it's usually a big blockbuster. And this would be one of those movies where, you know, it's not going to win any, you know, Oscars. It's not going to win any critics awards, but it's like it's going to make a ton of money because people go to have fun.
Right.
And that's what this movie was for me.
I agree. I wouldn't
watch Gangs of Wasseypur on Christmas Day.
I would not either. Definitely not. Too depressing. All my complaints are in good nature though, because if I did not like this movie, you would know. I don't think it was. It didn't live up to my expectations for the first one. It's not where I wanted the story to go. But isn't this a historical epic? Isn't it based on?
No, it's not. It's loosely based on a religious text, which apparently in the comments has also been argued that it isn't. Some people have said it is, other people have said it's not. So I'm not going to make that claim anymore.
The reason why I bring that up at all is because if there is a basis for this story in some form, whether it's a loose interpretation or it's a strict one, it doesn't really matter. There was already an ending in existence.
Right.
So maybe they had to adhere to it, and I'm just obviously not familiar. So, like, maybe if I was, it wouldn't be so bad. But I'm not a fan of, like... If you veer off
the course too much, people will get upset about it.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
No, I'm with you. Like,
I'm just not a fan of, like, happily ever after. And not in this way.
Okay, well... You're a Debbie Downer, bro. That's why
the uncle just bothers me.
Daniel doesn't get invited to anybody's parties because he just brings down the mood.
The uncle not dying didn't bother you with the little hand?
No.
Or like facing some sort of negative consequences?
I was really hoping that Katapa killed him when he had that interaction.
That was another moment where when he was like,
I feel like he was gonna,
you're
like,
a slave,
stab
you're
him,
a slave, and he just slaps him.
Yeah, he slapped him. I thought he was gonna slap him with his sword. But he
Across
did.
His throat.
that disappointed me a little bit. But no, it was fine. Anyways, I mean, thanks for watching, guys. If you'd like this review, check out our other reviews, The Gangs of Wasseypur. We have a 2-part review that's up already, doing pretty well. We also did a review of Baahubali 1, The Beginning. You can check that out if you haven't seen it already. And make sure you watch some of our reaction videos. And, you know, in the comments, we're going to figure out a survey for you guys to pick what movie we review next. I think, personally, we should review Dangal, because I've been wanting to watch the movie. You know,
I was going to say Sultan, so we're kind of in the same...
So, I mean, we'll figure it out. You guys let us know. Would you rather us review Dangal or Sultan first? We're going to review both of them. But let us know because we're going to do those back to back. We're going to do wrestling theme reviews.
And these are probably going to start shifting to Sunday. We're going to hope to have at least one review a week.
Yeah.
Movie review.
On Sundays.
Yeah.
So no more Wednesday reviews, guys. Sunday reviews. Check it out. And make sure you check out our other reaction videos as well. Thanks for watching. You can find us on Twitter at DNG Podcast. We're also on Instagram at DNG Talk. The links will be in the description.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.